Have you ever heard about Ronald Read? He was a janitor, a man living a simple life. And when he passed away in 2014, he left behind a fortune of $8 million. Yes, you heard me right. Janitor, $8 million. No lottery win, no surprise inheritance. He quietly saved throughout his life and let compounding work its magic. The real takeaway? Your behavior with money often beats your intelligence. You don't need a Harvard degree or a job on Wall Street to build wealth. You just need sound financial habits. As Morgan Housel brilliantly puts it, financial success isn't a hard science. It's a soft skill where how you behave matters more than what you know. Stick with me for the next 10 to 15 minutes, and you might just level up your soft skills in investing. This is a top 5 key takeaway summary from The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. It's delivered to you by Macromint Media, your go-to source for financial freedom tips through stock market investing. Takeaway 1. Pay the price. Imagine you want to buy a sleek new watch. You head to the store, dreaming of impressing your friends and that lovely lady you've been seeing. Now you have 2 options. You can pay for it, or you can dash out the door and test your cardio skills. I'm betting you'll swipe your card. You know that a shiny new watch comes with a price tag. Well, investing works the same way. It comes with a price too. Throughout this channel, one recurring theme for earning high returns is having a somewhat concentrated portfolio, with a few exceptions like Peter Lynch. But a concentrated portfolio has a side effect. It's volatile. That volatility? It's the fee you pay for long-term high returns. If you can't handle seeing your net worth drop by 20% in a single week, just because a couple of your top stocks had disappointing earnings, then maybe chasing maximum returns isn't for you, because high returns often come with a high emotional price. Let's say you had the foresight to bet big on Netflix 10 years ago. Today, you'd be pretty well off. But could you have survived the ride? Netflix went through brutal downturns. Imagine the 2011 debacle when Netflix lost a massive chunk of its customers and the stock price plummeted 80%. Would you have stayed in the boat? Would you have been able to explain this to your spouse and kids? Could you have looked them in the eyes knowing you might have jeopardized their future, still feeling good about being Elon on Netflix? That's an extreme example. But even if your portfolio is less risky than an all-in Netflix strategy, you'll still need to stomach volatility. For instance, if you bought an S&P 500 index fund in 1980, you would have had to endure about 13 years when your portfolio was down by 20% and around 8 months when it was down by 50%. Ouch. Investing in the stock market is an incredible wealth-building tool. But don't kid yourself. It's not free. Every investor pays the price of volatility. Accept it as the toll you pay for a wealthier future. Takeaway 2. Never enough. Here is something fascinating. You can hand someone a $2 million bonus, and they're thrilled until they find out their colleague got $2 million and $1. Suddenly, they're miserable for a whole year. Capitalism does 2 things really well. It creates wealth, and it creates envy. Wanting to outshine your neighbors, friends, and coworkers can push you to work harder and achieve more, which is good. But it can also trap you in a race where nothing is ever enough. Let's check out some numbers. In the US, you need to earn about $500,000 a year to be in the top 1% of income earners. That's what a top-tier specialist doctor might make. Let's call him Bill. Bill's living the dream? Luxury cars, exotic vacations, a housekeeper to handle the chores? Bill felt good about his success until he bought a vacation home in the Hamptons and met his neighbor Stan, a CEO who earns $10 million a year. Now Bill doesn't feel so rich, but wait, it gets better. Stan is childhood buddies with Michael Jordan, one of the wealthiest athletes ever, with a net worth around $2 billion. Suddenly, Stan feels like the poor guy. Does it stop there? Of course not. Michael Jordan occasionally attends parties where Jeff Bezos is hanging out. Bezos isn't just wealthy, he's on another planet, adding $75 billion to his fortune in a single year. There's always someone richer. This relentless comparison has driven people to make catastrophic mistakes. Over-leveraging portfolios, insider trading, even neglecting their families. Some people have lost everything, even their freedom, trying to climb a higher financial ladder. As you follow this channel and grow your wealth, remember this. You must eventually decide what enough looks like. Don't trade what you have and need for something you don't have and don't need, even if it looks tempting. Takeaway 3. Crazy is in the eye of the beholder. Ever seen someone spend insane amounts of money on things that seem utterly ridiculous to you? Or maybe you know people who stash their cash under their mattress. To you, they might seem crazy, but their decisions probably make perfect sense to them. People come from different backgrounds, experiences, families, and educational paths. All of this shapes how we view money. Morgan Housel illustrates this with a lottery example. Households in the lowest income bracket in the U.S. spend over $400 a year on lottery tickets, 4 times more than the wealthiest households. At the same time, over a third of Americans can't cover a $400 emergency expense. So, are they spending their emergency savings on lottery tickets? Seems nuts, right? But think about their world. They live paycheck to paycheck, have limited savings, often lack access to quality education, and can't afford luxuries or pay for their kids' college without drowning in debt. Buying a lottery ticket is their way of buying hope, a shot at a life many of us already have. So maybe it's not so crazy after all. How does this help you as an investor? It reminds you that you don't need to copy someone else's investment strategy. Your risk tolerance might be way higher than a billionaire who's focused on preserving wealth instead of building it. Mimicking their portfolio could be a terrible fit for your goals. It also teaches you to stay away from investments outside your comfort zone. For example, I never touched GameStop stock during the mania. Not a trader, it's just not my game. By appreciating different perspectives, you can make smarter decisions and stick to your own financial path. Takeaway 4. Peekaboo. What did the Great Depression, World War II, financial crises, and the COVID-19 pandemic have in common? They were all game-changing, market-shaking events that almost no one saw coming. Nassim Taleb calls these black swans. They're rare, have huge impacts, and seem obvious only after they've happened. Picture Black Monday in 1987, when the stock market dropped nearly 25% in a single day. Would you have panicked and screamed, "Sell, sell"? Or would you have stayed calm and maybe even bought more shares? Here's a wild fact. If you'd invested in the S&P 500 over the last 20 years, but missed just the 4 best performing days, your return would drop from 291% to 164%. Timing the market is nearly impossible. The key: don't waste your time trying to predict the next disaster. Instead, prepare yourself emotionally and financially to survive the ones you can't see coming. Stop obsessing over macroeconomic forecasts. The events that shake markets most are usually the ones no one expects anyway. Takeaway 5. The seduction of pessimism. If I rattled off reasons why the market might crash this year, like the enormous U.S. debt, KON fears, or new COVID variants, you'd probably find that story pretty convincing. But if I told you about rising life expectancy, cheaper green energy, or the exponential growth of computing power, you'd likely shrug and move on. Why? Because pessimists sound smart and optimists sound, well, naive. Daniel Kahneman, author of Thinking, Fast and Slow, explains this. We're hardwired to prioritize threats over opportunities. It's a survival instinct. Losses feel more painful than gains feel good. Also, progress is slow and often invisible, while disasters are sudden and dramatic. It's easy to build a compelling story around a setback, but much harder to tell a thrilling story about slow, steady progress. Knowing that we naturally gravitate toward pessimistic narratives can help you keep your balance. Remember, as Hans Rosling from Sweden said, "The world is better than you think." So here's the wrap-up. You want to get rich in the stock market without paying the emotional toll of volatility. Envy is dangerous. Don't risk what you have and need for what you don't have and don't need. Different people have different perspectives. Respect that. Stop trying to predict market disasters. Instead, build resilience. Be careful when listening to gloomy investment advice. Pessimism tugs harder at your instincts than optimism does. That's all for today, but that's not all for Morgan Housel. This book is a treasure. Definitely check it out. And if you want to dive deeper into the fascinating relationship between money and human psychology, then comment below. Cheers.